with?
Yeah, yeah.
You are a son of a bitch.
Un saluto a
Hey.
tutti.
Hey Juventini, welcome back to the AJC. Obviously, we're going to be tackling what was Juventus Napoli at home in Turin. And for the game that it was, the finish was absolutely wild and pandemonium. We're going to talk about everything. The title of the show, obviously, was Juventus Raw because that's how many feel out there. I had some choice words after the watch along. Thank you to everybody who tuned into the watch along because despite us not getting the result, that was a good time regardless. Yeah, I don't know. I think we got to look at ourselves before looking elsewhere for the reasons for not only this one, but many drop points this particular season. Now, Anthony's with me. Omar's with me. It's not a victory Monday, but we're going to make the most of this Monday regardless. Because what did I say at the end of the watch along? Don't worry about things out of your control. All right? And that's going to kind of be my main thing through this show. We can't worry about things out of our control.
And as we learned in the pre-show here in the green room, the Digos, they're on it because they are out there finding people with air-to-air missiles in their house.
The Digos. We're going to talk about the Digos. So that's one of the news headlines, obviously. I'll get into that first. We got to get some housekeeping out of the way. You're tuning into this on your audio outlets. Get over to YouTube, okay? Subscribe to the channel. That's where you get all the extra content, watch along, match day lives, interviews like the one we had with Roberto Bettega, and many more to come, all right? So get over there. If you're looking to support the channel, obviously we have the merchandise on the store. Super Chat is enabled, all right? And we also have subscriptions, 3 different tiers, different set of perks for all those subscription memberships, all right? So take a look at that. Now, I'm going to say what's up to everybody in the live and just kind of see the feel. I think I already know how the feel's going to be. But look at Mr. Joey Cappuccino. Just saying buongiorno bianconeri. Keeping it simple.
Joy.
I like it. Now, BE says Allegri robbed the club by having the highest salary in Serie A and playing anti-football. All right, strong words. Bikram G, all the fans in the stadium, and I just asked for a win. Not a hammering, not an attractive play, nothing. Just a win. And they gave us this crap performance. Wow. Guys, please don't blame VAR referees. That's a loser mentality. We lost because we didn't play to win. Okay. A lot in there. We've got robbed. VAR should not intervene in 50-50 type of cases, but only when big mistakes are done by the referee. We're going to hear from Arbitro Nick and get into all of it over here, okay? So, again, a lot going on. Emotions were high given the big nature of the match, and this is what you get. Funny enough, Nick sent me a message when he saw the referee appointed, and he said, I think we're going to see problems because he should not be doing this caliber of a match. He called it right away. I have the text. It was like, it might have even been the day before, but he said this guy is going to give us problems. And him and his group that work together in reffing MLS next and whatnot, we're all talking saying this guy's, there's going to be issues. Now, again, I'm going to go a different route, and I think everybody knows from me and the watch along what I've been saying. I'm going to stay true to that because I still feel the same way, all right, in terms of the performance. We're going to start things off with the lineup because this is another interesting talking point. Everybody exploded at Juve's lineup. Everybody exploded and was saying, oh, here we go. We're getting bombarded, whatever. And I said, well, no, because if you look at it, there's only a couple changes and they actually make sense, right? You've got Bremer who avoided injury, and we'd rather have him for the knockout games. There's still 7 league games. And Rugani has been fine for over a year doing his job. Nothing more, nothing less. Makes sense. Miretti, I said Fagioli could probably use a break. Nothing wrong with Miretti, and he did great against Sporting. Let it go. Sule and Milik. Well, Milik We can't complain about Dusan Vlahovic 24/7 and then blow a gasket when he's not in the lineup, can we?
Well, people can. They will.
Okay, yes, you can. But it's not really making sense if we're complaining
Correct.
like match in, match out, and then
Mm.
all of a sudden, okay, we're gonna go with Milik, and now it's a big deal. No, that
And
made
you
sense.
can and you can say it's not an attacking problem. It's not a striker problem. It's literally the entire attack.
Yes,
The
exactly.
whole thing.
Sule coming in, also you can make the logical explanation because Chiesa, that was the first set of extended minutes he got in this playing the 78 or 80 whatever against Sporting there.
Hmm.
First long run, and again, midweek, knockout to Coppa Italia. Inter. Di Maria, same thing. Probably want to preserve him. So, all in all, I didn't actually have a problem with that lineup. I didn't. Did you guys?
Homer?
I, th- I think it was surprising. Um, but Allegri clearly saying that there are still points to win in the league and we can recover them against weaker oppositions. Coppa Italia is one match, no away goals, no nothing. That's a must win. And we only get one shot on that. And that's what's important to him right now. That's what I got from this lineup.
Yeah.
I think the initial shock of it when people see it, you're like, what is he doing? He's given up. And Al, I'm not going to re-summarize everything that you just said, but as it turns out, again, Max got the lineup right.
Yeah.
He put out a unit there that, from what I saw, functioned properly, and I thought they played well considering the amount of minutes that all those players have together. I thought they played well
Yeah. I honestly.
against a dynasty. Like we're playing against a dynasty yesterday. Like it's unbelievable what that team did.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Best Italian team ever. Everybody remember that.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Nonsense.
Anyways,
The
okay.
guys did overall a good job. I have
Mhm.
concerns that have been there for quite some time, and this is why I have a big problem with the whole "we got robbed" thing. Because honestly, I don't like that. I don't even like talking about it or thinking that
Oh,
way
we will.
because you can't. You have to take matters into your own hand. This team
Hmm.
is not capable of doing so. We made a living off of games that happen like that, and we did it for a long time.
Long
I
time.
talked about this in the watch along to the degree that the league was talking about trying to involve playoffs to decide champions. They were talking about altering schedules to give teams more rest. Why? When Juventus is winning. Now, all of a sudden, a few years, we're not on top domestically, and all of a sudden, they don't need to alter anything. Like,
No, it's
don't be
fine.
blind to what's going on out there because I'm sure, like, we can all feel it now. It's been Amici di Nessuno forever. You've got prosecutors, for Christ's sake, involved in ongoing cases coming out professing their disdain for Juventus, for Christ's sake. It's not even hidden anymore. However, this doesn't change the fact that this is exactly why Juve needs to get shit done on the pitch and leave it
Hmm.
out of everybody else's hands. But I
100%.
refuse to turn into everything that we have laughed at and ridiculed over the 9 years of dominating that league that we'll never see again, okay, from any club. And if it is going to be another club, yeah, you can bet your ass it's going to be us. But I refuse to turn into those exact friggin' chihuahuas that we ridiculed and laughed at all those years. I refuse to do it.
That's a
Juventus
good point.
was not robbed.
That's a good point because you don't want to start saying, look, there's favoritism against or for, because again, you're right. You're gonna start sounding like what other people sound like for 9 years. And hey, sometimes there's bad refereeing. Sometimes there's mistakes. At the
And
end of
don't
the
kid
day,
yourself. That was bad referee.
yeah. But
It
Let's
at
was
the end of
bad.
the
forget
day,
It
ignore
was
that.
bad.
at the end of the day, you still have to control what you can control and put the damn ball in the back of the net or create chances. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, and we will get to that because, again, ultimately, my frustration is that makes the ninth game consecutively we have not scored multiple goals.
What are we
Okay,
even talking about here?
9 straight games we have not been able to score multiple goals. And I'll give it leeway against a club like Napoli and what they're doing this season. But still, ultimately, this game, the first half, we'll get to it. I was okay with the second half. Big lull. Big lull there in the second half. And Napoli ended up being the better of the two sides in the majority of that second half. It would have been a robbery and we would have stole those 3 points. And would I have taken it? Absolutely. You can bet your
100%.
ass on it. I would have taken 100%.
Oh, yeah.
But if we would have got the job done, that goal would have stood. It would have been a robbery the other way. Because based on the second half of play, we did very little, everybody. Very little, everybody. But we talked about lineup. Let's get into this. Honestly, in the first half, there's not much even for opportunities we really need to talk to. I think Juve did a good job as a whole in slowing Napoli down and shutting them down in the first half. We did have runs of play against them. Not a lot as far as opportunities go. The teams were very close. It was like something like 5-4 for attempts. And 10 minutes in, Quadrado cuts in to his left, has a shot there. Unfortunately, the rebound from Merit just doesn't land for Milik, and Napoli's able to clear. Probably one of the better opportunities. In the 30th minute, though, before we get to some other opportunities, Gatti, pretty fortunate, I think, here on this one. And this was one that caused a lot of debate out there, too. I'm going to be 100% honest before I get to Arbitro Nick and him coming in here. I have no idea what the hell he's even doing at that point.
No clue.
Yeah. Like, it makes zero sense watching that play why all of a sudden he's swinging. The ball has another Juventus defender in between that and Kvaratskhelia. What on earth is he thinking at that moment? And if that's in the area, you bet your ass he's in huge trouble because they're going to look at it. The only fact they didn't, and this is also something that should be highlighted, because you can't say it's clear and obvious error from the ref not calling anything on it. VAR can't intervene. That is key. Clear and obvious error. We'll get into that, of course, more. But I don't know what the hell he's doing here, and I actually think he's very fortunate. You guys agree?
Omer?
Yeah, 100%. That could have easily been a red card. I mean, that was more severe than what Keane did to Mancini and got a red card against Roma. But I'm not, frustrated about it because, I mean, it happens a lot. Lautaro kicking Locatelli in the face. I mean, we had tons of instances where it didn't go the other way. So it happens. That's the referee's fault. We were lucky. Take it and move forward. It happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he was trying to, I don't know what he was trying to do. Let's just say, for argument's sake, he was trying to swipe him out of the way. You know what I mean? Try to get around him or swipe him out of the way. You still run the risk of it looking like you're smacking the guy in the side of the head. And easily.
No, he was
right?
smacking him. I mean, he made the face of.
Oh, yeah.
Screw you. Pop. For a second there.
That
was intentional. That wasn't a mistake.
He got real lucky there.
He was very fortunate there. I didn't catch it on real time watching on the watch along. There's always a lot going on, and I'm checking stats, whatever, on phone, going back to the game. I didn't catch it, and I just Kvaratskhelia down and whatnot. Nobody really said anything in the live chat, and until after match where they said, "Hey, Gatti was extremely lucky there." After watching it, that's absolutely ridiculous. He could have cost us dearly in a big game, so he better knock that crap out for sure. Now,
but it didn't, so it's funny.
Arbitro Nick says Gatti appeared to have struck whatever his name is just outside the penalty area. Fabri allowed play to continue. If this had been inside the penalty area, I think we definitely would have seen a penalty kick, as it definitely would have what did he say? Inside the penalty area, we definitely would have seen a penalty kick, as it is definitely a foul. Since it was outside the area, it is only reviewable if considered clear and obvious error for a red card. This comes down to interpretation. Since the hit was not a play for the ball, the only potential red card option is violent conduct. Do we think Gatti used brutality? Was his hit considered violent or even intentional? You can make the argument for yes.
You can make the argument.
And he just says,
Again.
for
It
him, he
was
says it
weird.
would have been harsh to send off Gatti for that, but the argument can be made. So it could have easily been a red card. Now, wrapping up the first half, Milik does well to get to a header on back post on a cross. Unfortunately, puts it right at Merit. And then Rabiot had probably one of the strongest opportunities driving in from the right side. And I thought it was something we needed to do much, much more. Take advantage of that side with Napoli where they had Oliveira there. That's where we had quite a bit of openings and were able to do some successful things. Rabiot runs it in and he tries to cross it back post. He does well. He gets it over there. Nobody at the back post. Kostic ends up keeping it in on that far side there. We get to halftime. For me, tight first half. Possession way too one-sided. Far too one-sided. We're talking around, 69% for Napoli. That's a little bit too one-sided. I wanted to see a little bit more balance and a shift for that in the second half. But overall, I was happy. I was happy with it, and I think the guys were well in it, and we didn't surrender much of anything to Napoli. And we looked like we could strike back, but I wanted a
Yep.
little more balance in play. How did you guys feel halftime?
I'll just read my notes real quick. Soft yellow on Locatelli. That one we didn't even talk about, but that was a bad call. That
That
was a
was
bad call.
super soft, yeah.
So to give a first yell on that, even Locatelli was complaining on it. There was another sequence of play where Danilo blocked a shot, and then on the subsequent free kick, I don't think Tech was getting to that. It was a free kick from the side that was curling in, and Danilo cleared it off the line with his head. I don't think Tech was getting to that. So, it could have went down 1-0 right there. 7 block shots for us yesterday. There was a couple big ones in the second half too. Can't forget those. In terms of first half, Gatti and Rugani, good. I did mention in the group chat because I was running the main yesterday, so I didn't really get to focus on him too much. I didn't see a lot of Sule until Luca and Lucci were telling me like, "Are you blind?" Well, I'm not really focusing on him, but when I really started focusing on Sule's play, he was having a fantastic game yesterday in that first half, and that only continued in the second half.
Yeah. Now, Omar,
Yeah.
your thoughts at half?
Honestly, I think we were good. I was pretty, I felt good with Juve. They played well. I mean, if by this point of the season we're still thinking Juve can control games, then we're wrong. They obviously can't. I can't remember one game when we took control and, held the ball in midfield. If there
Nance,
were any, maybe Nantes, okay.
maybe
And that game
Nance.
was a draw too, the first one. So I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
expecting that against Napoli, who that's their bread and butter. They like holding the ball, they like pressing high. That was the main issues I foresaw before the match. So it was nothing surprising. I was surprised with our attacking play and that we did manage to get to more opportunities than we usually do in one game. Um, the yellows were harsh, both Rabios and Locatellis, and that's a big problem because it takes out two of your guys who are supposed to win balls in the center, and now they have to be cautious for most of the match.
Yeah.
Those are calls that can cost you games because they can't play as they usually play anymore. If it was called for, if the yellows were just, no problem with it. But both of them were weak and took out both of our tacklers in the middle, which affected, I believe, the second half and our control and us controlling the play.
Yeah, the problem with the soft yellows is that's you're not going to be able to keep that consistent. Not in a big game with the bigger clubs that are up at the top. You'll never keep that consistency. So they were terrible. They were able to put it, and he didn't keep consistent. And the yellows
No, no, no,
were
no.
very one-sided come the end of the match, where I think Napoli only ended up with one yellow card. And my God,
And
Zambo Anguissa could have been easily carded out of that game from what I saw.
he got one in the
Especially if he was trying to
97th minute.
keep it consistent with the standard that he set on those yellows. So, yeah, I mean, from a referee standpoint, but again, I'm still looking to us. And I don't think that I necessarily feel like we did so much in terms of opportunities and everything. Four total attempts, I believe, in that first half. That's it. So while we're still, and again, think about this, while we're still happy overall with what we did, it's not enough. If you're playing the percentages, if you're thinking about this game as a whole, you have to do much more than that against top opposition. That's just not going to cut it, everybody. This team has gone 9 games without scoring multiple goals. 4 attempts in one half is usually not going to do it. You're not on the right side of playing the percentages. Something's got to change. So in the second half, all I wanted to see was us pick it up in terms of balance of play. Everybody mistakes that usually with the press. I don't think that's a good way to go at Napoli. Not for us, because then the game really opens up, becomes almost like a shootout. You don't want to do that with Napoli. We don't want to do that with Napoli. We're not strong enough offensively.
No, that line.
What I wanted them to do was when we get in our defensive shell and Napoli's in possession, start to push from there. Push out of your shell to get the ball back quicker rather than be content to sit there and just let them move you around the pitch. Start pressing and start working from there to get the ball back and then try and strike. Kind of like what we saw towards the end of the second half, which now we're going to get into the second highlights. And we'll go through that quick and then tackle, of course, the madness. So, 49th minute and second half, Napoli, they turned it up a bit. They definitely turned it up a bit, and we could all feel it. 49th minute, Kvaratskhelia working on Quadrado on the left side, gets a shot off and actually swallowed up by Tech. I will say this, that Tech actually did very, very well yesterday. I know that there's some that gave him heat on the Raspadori one, but he swallowed up everything. He gave 0 rebounds on
Luca.
anything that was going there, and that was huge. That was huge, especially come the second half when Napoli started to dial it up. We get some changes. We get some substitutions. I said something at halftime on the watch along, and for me, I said, the way I was seeing this game going, I said, this is a tough one to try and sort out your substitutions. And while everybody's natural reaction, of course, is we got to get Chiesa and we have to get Di Maria in. Of course, we want to do that. But I said, right now, I like what Miretti's doing. Kostic, while people were saying struggling, I said I wouldn't take him out because of the amount of work he's doing that's actually become crucial to us in this particular game against Napoli. I said the only viable option for me of somebody to sub, and also he was doing well, was Sule. I said that's my only real changing option right now if I'm looking at bringing those guys in. You've got one choice between Di Maria or Chiesa, in my personal opinion. And lo and behold, we make some changes, okay? And we probably gave up a bit too much in the middle, but Miretti comes off and Di Maria comes in. Chiesa comes on, Kostic is the one to come off. And 5 minutes later, Fagioli ends up coming in for Sule and whatnot. But this was essentially where I really felt the scales start to tip to one side in favor of Napoli.
You could see it on the field too. Once Napoli made their changes, it's their subs. I'm not going to say their subs pound for pound were better than ours. I'm not going to get into that. But their subs elevated their team's play, their team's energy.
We had two different things going on because we ended up having to bring Fagioli in a little bit later, balance out the midfield and whatnot. We got Chiesa wasn't truly playing that role the way Kostic was, a little bit forward. We kind of switched things up, widened out at the back. Napoli brought in Elmas and Zielinski. The second Zielinski comes on there, now all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if we try to rule out Lobotka because now Zielinski also drops back, and that created a problem because now all of a sudden they have two guys that can essentially quarterback everything for Napoli, and that created a bit of an issue for Juve. But from that point on, when we made those changes, we brought Chiesa, Di Maria in, and it was like we didn't know how to get them the ball or get them involved whatsoever. And then once Zielinski enters, we had two essential quarterbacks to kind of try and deal with in the middle of the pitch for Napoli, and we didn't do a good job of responding. And Napoli started to really dial it up. 69th minute, Osimhen doesn't miss by much after Elmas had dribbled into the area and whatnot, and Gatti I think gets just enough to block this
You got
one.
toe on it. Yep.
And then 70th minute, right after this one, Osimhen with a header, free header, luckily right at Tech, and luckily he swallows it up again. No rebound, nothing. And then 72nd minute, Osimhen is sent right through. I thought this would be in the back of the net, to be honest. When you give top strikers these types of opportunities, you're usually made to pay. I thought we got away with that one. He was sent right through. Gatti was a couple steps behind, and Osimhen puts it over the net. I was surprised by that one. 82nd minute.
You want to know something? You know how hard it is to hit that ball, even get a foot on it? Is that the one from the right side?
That's the one that was a through ball sent on, and he made the angular run there. Yeah.
That was a beautiful through ball.
What's that?
That was a beautiful through ball.
Oh, yeah. It was great. And Gatti was, like standing on the initial run there and whatnot, and he just couldn't read that one. But overall, Gatti did he had a strong game. Obviously, that moment he got fortunate with, but there we have that. Napoli's really dialing it in. 82nd minute. We win the ball around 27 yards outside of our goal. Locatelli, a great ball, finding Di Maria. We're down, we're running it. He cuts inside, has a go. Jesus deflects it enough to make it go over Merritt. My God, I'm losing my mind on the watch along, man. I am just jacked. We can steal this thing. Called back. And I knew immediately. I was so jacked up about the goal. Play continued, and then it all kind of sunk in, and I was like, they're going to go check that. I
thought Di Maria was offside.
Now, yeah, I mean, until they showed the replay, and you can't be offside in your own half, and that's when Luca sent it, which was good. But yeah, there was concerns about that too, but I knew they were going right to that moment. Milik and Lobotka, 50-50 play. Okay, now we can get into this, everybody. VAR calls it for a check. Fabry goes against his decision. I have a couple issues in this whole scenario. Number one, is that a clear and obvious error when it's directly under the referee's nose? And I think looking back on the replays, that's not a clear and obvious error. VAR is not to be used to make the calls. It is to correct clear and obvious errors. For me, that's not a clear and obvious error. And it's a 50-50. And how I look at it, I don't care about people talk. Okay, he got shin. Well, Lobotka's running in. Obviously, he's going to get shin. What's one of the main fundamentals in football? You can shield. Milik has the right to that space. He does not slide into Lobotka. He is sliding in, and he is in the space in between. Okay? The contact that comes after is Lobotka running in. And if we want to start breaking down the game this slow, then I will say, looking at that replay, how come Lobotka can easily just hop over that leg and keep moving on? What are we doing here? We're breaking down the game into such small, minute increments on a bang-bang 50-50 play. Ultimately, the ref, it's right there in front of him. And by rules, that is the call that should outweigh everything. There is a precedence with what happens on the field. That is my biggest problem with this one. I don't think it's clear and obvious error. I don't even think they need to get involved, to be honest. Anth, Omer, you guys, before we get to Arbitro Nick. Anth?
You want me to start?
Go ahead.
Yeah, for me that's a foul, right? I thought it was the right call. I thought he missed it. The only thing I can think of is that he was watching the split second before the potential foul on Fagioli. So he had his eyes on that, and then that was a split second after it. So maybe he didn't see it. Maybe people say he was looking right at it, but were his eyes shifting from one play to the other? For me, you bring up a good point there, Al. I never really thought about that. How Milik being in the space before, but for me, he slides into the attacker, and the attacker's like kicks his foot into the ball. So I get it. You can kind of see it both ways, but for me, that's a foul. That was he missed it, and they called it back. I got nothing else to say on it.
Omer?
Never a foul. Never in a million years. That was wrong in my opinion. If the positions were reversed, I'd be shocked if it would get cancelled. And I would say we were lucky that got cancelled.
Yeah.
I mean, usually when we see those instances, remember the Dzeko De Chilio one where Inter got the penalty because Dzeko put his foot ahead of De Chilio.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So once again, the inconsistencies. The guy who gets to the ball first, and that wasn't a dangerous slide. It didn't, hit Lobotka right in the shin. Lobotka ran into his leg, and he got to the ball first. That's a robbery, in my opinion. Napoli did nothing, wrong here. I mean, you always try to fall and call the foul, and they got it. And so that's 100% on the referee. And I'm also, I don't know the rule of how long you can go back to check and cancel because, I mean, it's a gray area. That was in our own half.
You can go
It
from
was
stoppage to stoppage. As
That
long
was
as there's no
pretty.
okay.
stoppage in between. If there had been a throw in or something in between that
Yeah, of
sequence,
course.
they can't go back.
That
They
was
can
Again,
only
pretty
if the
go
ball
as
direct.
goes
far
out
back
of
to the
play,
throw
yeah.
in.
That
But
was a pretty direct play for went from
regardless
Milik to
regardless of that,
Lacazette.
here's the thing.
No
Here's the
foul.
thing I find funny. Why I just for me it's not a foul. If Milik's foot hits ground first and is planted, then Lobotka is considered going through Milik. How come just
Mhm.
because it's aerial as he's trying to dive into that space, it's not seen in the same fashion? It is the
Yeah,
same fashion. Ultimately, it's Lobotka going through Milik's body. We see this type of shield all the time, and forwards get the call quite
they get
often.
the call, and that's my point. If that happens in the third minute in the middle of the field, that's a foul on Milik. So for me, they will consistently call that a foul on the guy who's sliding. Whether it's and you guys are making great points, but for me, consistently that play that player on the ground in that position is going to be called for a foul.
Arbitro Nick coming in.
He's the tiebreaker right here.
Let's keep this plain and simple
Mhm.
because I am shell shocked, he says.
Oh,
Milik makes
No.
a slide tackle, clearly plays ball while also making some contact on the Napoli player.
he doesn't play the
Fabry
ball.
was right in front of the plate, indicated immediately the ball was played. Key consideration: did the player play the man and then the ball, or did he play the ball and make contact with his momentum? If Fabry whistled the foul immediately, I would have been okay with the call, but not whistling it on the field was supportable. The referee's decision on the field weighs the most. Fabry
Hmm.
was in a perfect position to see it and even indicated exactly what he saw. This call was most definitely not VAR material, as it was very evidently not a clear and obvious error. Terrible
Okay.
use of VAR, but I did not expect anything less from Fabry. Wow.
Okay. So right there. So first of all, Luca, there. If that's in the box, that's a penalty shot. I'll just answer that. He brings up a good point. So this is going to go back to everybody's conspiracy theories on the ref. That's the ref not sticking to his guns and saying, "No, I'm not even going to look at it. I saw it." Once he goes over and looks at it, that's when you can start getting into, okay, he was sort of there first. It looks like a foul. You know what I mean? It opens up the gray area. For
He's a
me, it was a
coward.
foul. He shouldn't have even gone and looked at it.
He's a coward. Coward.
Yeah,
He's a coward.
I don't know. It kind of feel I don't want to sound bitchy, but it kind of feels they're looking at everything from every angle to try to find ways to cancel goals. Not only Juve, but I feel it with Juve because I watch Juve the most. Especially that Bremer incident where he just hopped on his shoulders and it was a handball and got called for a foul. I remember Freiburg or anything. That's going for stretch, no, for
And
canceling that goal.
this is my biggest issue with the whole thing, is that it's too much. You're breaking the game down too far. This goes to offsides. This goes to everything. Like, ultimately, and what should have the most weight is these guys on the pitch. And if it isn't, then for Christ's sake, let VAR call an entire game then. What's the point of these guys out there? For me, that doesn't have to get looked at to that degree. But nonetheless,
He was there. He was right there.
I know. And he made the call, made the indication. We move. Nonetheless, that is not why Juve faltered and slipped up. There was a final dagger, and obviously that was Raspadori. This, for me, and Juventini that want to talk, I'm sorry if you want to talk about Quadrado's play, which comes up now in the 93rd minute. He tries to sell one, everybody, okay? Absolutely tries to sell. There's absolutely nothing there. He makes the cut, okay, and he realizes that Lobotka's going to get to that ball before him, and he decides, I'm going to run my leg into Juan Jesus. He still plants after it, okay, and then goes down. So it is what it is. Juan tried to sell one, failed. The problem is, how on earth at this level do you go the entire length of the pitch and nobody realizes our fullback is still up walking back and nobody takes up that position? That is the huge problem. And this is why Juventus comes out of it dropping to a loss, because nobody picks it up. Cross comes in and Raspadori is sitting there and he lashes at that thing. People that want to give Tech a hard time for that, I'm sorry, I can't do it. It's a boom boom play. The guy's lacing it from there. You know how hard it is to try and it is what it is. I mean, you might feel like he should have done better because it ended up going through the wickets, whatever, but nonetheless,
I disagree here.
Unacceptable that Raspadori is back post all alone and nobody communicates it, nobody picks it up. If you are a player running back, and yes, as much as I love the kid, Fagioli, you can't just allow that to just be. You have to drop into that space and you have to pick it up. Whether your center backs are calling you for it or not, that is the difference between taking a draw and dropping all the points. And to be honest, if you go down this season, it's a mistake that costs us so many points down the road. Juventus can be our own worst enemy, period. And in this one, a lot of what Napoli generated was from our mistakes until we made some changes and we looked like we didn't know how to play with the guys we came in. But for me, that is just unacceptable. Unacceptable, guys. Unacceptable.
Omer?
Yes, so 3 people are to blame for the goal, in my opinion. First of all, obviously Quadrado, who looked. I mean, it's nothing new. He always does it. He always looks for that little touch to fall and draw the foul instead of trying to play, keep on playing. But the referee is not going to stop the mid attack and look at it. So you didn't get hurt. Get up, run back. That's your duty. Fagioli should have covered it. Should have seen him. You could even see Lucatelli yelling at him, "Why weren't you there?" And Tech, I mean, yeah, it's a bit unlucky, but still, straight at you, straight at your body, not on the ground, and it still goes between your legs. Unlucky. I expect better from shots that go in. And he was great all game long. It was great, but one mistake from anyone, and we lose the game, and that's exactly what happened. So least of all to blame is Tech, but still I expect better. Quadrado, man, that's worth going to the bench for 2-3 games at least.
I'm not gonna blame a keeper on a shot like that, man. And it bounced.
A missile from 6 yards.
He volleyed that thing. He hammered it. It bounced.
His body.
You can't. No human could close their legs that fast enough to get to that ball. There's no way.
The other thing is when you're watching, it's a volley. It's a volley.
Yeah.
When you see a guy line up a volley like that, that thing can go anywhere.
Anywhere.
You're trying to like,
but it
okay, where the
but it
hell is
went
this thing
straight
gonna
at
go?
him. If it was, half a meter left or right, I would have said, okay, he has no fault in here at all. But it was straight at him. If he stood, he could have parried it with his hands.
But the
But
problem is again the anticipation. It's a like it's
Can
crazy
go
when you're
anywhere.
playing that point blank and
he's
that guy lines up that volley. You're gonna probably maybe he's thinking, oh, he's gonna go far post and start cheating a bit. Now all of a sudden you can't close your legs. I'm not blaming Tech at all. I
I
can't
said
do it. I can't do it on that one.
he's the
Just as
last one to
if
blame.
Perrin was in, I wouldn't have blamed him either. It should have never
Exactly.
got to that point. It's
Right.
Yeah,
plain and simple.
exactly.
Plain and
Exactly. I
simple.
agree with that.
Should have never got to that point. Juve drops it 1-0 again. Robbery, all this talk, nonsense, everybody. Nonsense. We talked about in the first half the amount of numbers Juve put forth. We finished with 7 attempts total, everybody. That means in the second half, Juve got 3 attempts. We don't need to talk about
right.
the officiating. We don't need to talk about a goal called back. We leave that for the Chihuahuas all those years. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're not turning into them. We're not turning into them. I refuse to do that. Juve has to figure it out offensively and the balance of play. What for a while now, for many games I've said it is starting to drop back and revert to those old habits. And we are not trying to fight for a better balance in play. The second half looked like there might be a little bit better of a balance share. At one point, we had 47% possession, and then all of a sudden, boom, couple changes, and the game changed completely, and we lost any type of balance.
And I told you that a few podcasts ago that when our subs come on, first of all, they don't look like they know what they're supposed to do. Second, you bring on all these attacking players, and what they have to do is defend. Now, defensively, yeah, I prefer Kostic to Chiesa, 100%. So we are worse defensively, and we're not doing anything in the attacking phase. So that's our story with subs this season. We can't bank on them to save us because whenever they come on, either we're leading 1-0 or we're just at 0-0 and max hopes for counter attack from the fresh guys. That's not a good formula for winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, another good formula is scoring goals. And I saw the Jay Softic, he put a comment in here earlier, so full credit to him. I'm just going to read it out because you
Yeah.
probably can't find it now. 6 of 31 games against top clubs, we've scored more than one goal. So whatever top clubs means,
Yeah.
let's just say top 6
Yeah.
or whatever it is, top 7. In 31 games, only 6 times we've scored more than one goal. That's just not good enough.
No.
And
it
9
isn't.
games in a row with a goal or less, it's not. We had that good run February to the international break. Omer, you said this on the show the other day. And then since the international break, it just what are we in April right now? 2 wins, 3 losses, and 2 draws. So 2, 2, and 3. It's not good enough. I know we know it's a busy month, but it's just not good enough.
It isn't. That's what it comes down to. That's why I don't like all this talk about officiating, all this. It's the exact reason you can't leave it in their hands. You have to ultimately take care of business. This team is not doing enough to get across the finish line. And you can't play top teams and get 7 attempts and expect to win. That's why I say, if that goal stands, we would have been the ones who robbed and stole that game. Obviously, we
100%.
would take it, whatever. But the
Mhm.
problem is, for me, we are trying to make a living off of this. We have had to hear numerous times about Di Maria, Pogba, Chiesa, and all this. You have your guys, and they're in there, and it's making zero difference.
Everybody's
Making
healthy.
very little difference.
Mhm.
What are we
They
talking
defend.
about here? Like, it has to be better. We have nobody to look at but ourselves for where we are. Bottom line. Bottom line.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I'd always say don't look for VAR to save you. If you're not good enough, don't hope VAR save you. And if it doesn't, don't blame him. You weren't good enough the entire time. I mean, you were fine. They were better than I expected, but still not good enough.
no, That second half, that twisted completely, and Napoli was the much stronger side in that second half for about 25 minutes of it before Juve started to make a press late. And again, another problem I have with this team is like there's nothing stopping from doing those things throughout and a little bit more with a little more conviction and a little more commitment out of the players. We have to do better. This is not a way for us to make a living. We're not clinical enough to try and make a living as this counter team. We're nowhere near being clinical enough. It's not happening.
And I feel
Yeah,
bad. I feel bad for the defenders because Rugani, Gatti, Danilo, and even Lucatelli, they did great defensively.
Mhm.
Obviously, Napoli are going to get chances. They're still the best team in the league, but they did great. And that final goal was just, it was heartbreaking, to be honest, because they
Yeah.
deserve to go drawless, to go goalless the entire match just because of their performance.
Now, let's get to man of the match, and then we're going to take a look at the offense. We're going to talk a little bit about the offense and whatnot and how you guys feel about it. Man of the match in this one for Juve, who do you give it to? Anth?
I had it. Jeez, Gatti had a good game. Gatti or Danilo. Rugani played. I thought Rugani had a good game. He was quiet. He was quiet in the sense that no mistakes, no issues. So is that a good game? I guess. For
Better than
me, it would
Sandro
either
Bonucci.
be. For me, but you want to know something? Never mind. Locatelli in that first half was unbelievable. He was
I think
unbelievable.
Locatelli in general is my guy. Gatti was up
Yeah.
there, and I would have given to, but after seeing that situation where he got very, very fortunate, I
Yeah.
give the edge to Locatelli. Locatelli
Yeah.
was an absolute unit, especially defensively for Juventus.
Yeah. I'll go with Locatelli yesterday.
Yeah. Omer?
I think the guys that were supposed to get it got subbed out, so I can't pick them. Yeah, Lucatelli is probably the right choice. I'll go with it too.
Yeah.
Who
Now,
who were you going to give it to if they didn't get subbed
If
out?
if Sula or Miretti kept on playing, I think they were great. Considering
Okay.
how big the game was, I think they were great.
yeah, I think they did really good work as well. Moretti continue on doing really good work. Are we, and live chat, this is you guys as well, are we starting to have a little bit of a concern with Fagioli?
No, no,
No?
I don't. I don't.
No. No, still too young, man. Like that's just we've had 6 games this month, right? Whatever is it? 7? 7. It's been a lot of football. No. You can't pull the parachute on a kid in general after a small stretch of games, after a small sample size. I'm not gonna do it.
What does Moretti bring that Fagioli doesn't?
Well, he's more attacking, that's for sure. He wants to get forward.
Why did we lose so much balance yesterday? Out of a sudden when these changes came. Was it because Chiesa wasn't playing it truly like Kostic? Like what was going on?
Well, we haven't had that we had that great run when we had Fagioli, Rabiot, and Locatelli, the three of them in the middle, right? The consistency of the lineup. And we sort of lost that in the past little while with Quadrado being hurt and Fagioli out, bringing Moretti in. I think we need to get back to that consistent lineup. And I want to see that again. We haven't seen that for 2-3 games in a row in a while. I want to see those
Well,
three back in the middle.
look, it's pretty hard with 9 games in 1 month to keep a consistent lineup
Mm-hmm.
for anyone.
Yep.
I mean, and Napoli did have like a 2 game rest ahead of us. They played on Tuesday. We played on Thursday. So they had the luxury of still playing their top guys mostly. But yeah, I can't see any manager, keeping the same lineup in 9 games in a month.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's no way.
I've got so I'll just get into it here, and when I'm talking like Fagioli, I'm talking about concerns with attitude and just what I see in terms of what I used to see to as of late. And there's like body language there that shows me. And again, when I go back to that breakdown he had on the Sassuolo goal after they scored it, I see him playing with way too much weight on either he's putting on himself or the club's putting on, like he feels it from Max or whatever. But I feel it, and I'm looking at him, and he doesn't look like the same confident young kid. And that's normal. That's gonna happen. But you can't come into a game like that, and for me, was pretty much invisible. And then in the crucial moment when we need you, and Locatelli's seemingly directing you, you're jogging. You're jogging to your spot, and Raspadori has a hit. It's just like I have concerns there. And naturally these two young guys are gonna be interchanging. Miretti and Fagioli.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference there when I'm seeing Miretti as of late coming in as opposed to Fagioli. I am a little bit concerned. I want Fagioli to be able to shake this off because it's not going to get any better when he's at Juve, guys. It's not going to get any better. The pressure doesn't just disappear.
No.
Now Moretti's had his own struggles. He hasn't been able to find contributions to
Back
what
in that.
he's used to in the next gen and whatnot. But he's an incredible talent. He does a lot of work off the ball. That is the biggest difference I see between these two young guys is what Miretti does off of the ball. And he can sniff out getting into these areas deeper, gaining better field position for Juventus and whatnot. They're going back and forth, these two. Right now, at the start of the year, it was Miretti up here, Fagioli here. And it's caught me off guard. Then
Mm-hmm.
we went through like this. They were evening out, leveling out, leveling out. And then all of a sudden, Fagioli's up here. Now, all of a sudden, for me, it might be just slightly scaled to Miretti for who I like in there at the moment out of the two. I don't think that's outrageous. And it's not a
No.
knock to Fagioli, but I am a little worried about his reaction as of late. Maybe
But
it's
isn't
just
it
me.
nice? Isn't it nice to have the option when one guy's down, you have the option to bring in another player who's
100%.
on better form?
100%.
So players are going
It's
to be they're not going to be on form all year.
and
Somewhat,
nobody's
some maybe, but
and it's just like when you talk about this and you talk about like our young guys, we get so overprotective. Like we're like overprotective parents or
right.
something. And everybody's like, oh, what do you no, like take it easy. Guys, it's okay to talk about. I'm not saying go out tomorrow and sell Fagioli. I'd be lying to you though if I said I wasn't a little concerned. Am I out of line here, Omer?
No, I think there are two sides to this story, or to this debate. One is, yeah, the players, they take too much pressure on them, and they kind of lost that young guy doesn't really care too much, just want to play, and now they have the Juventus weight on their shoulder, which is fine. That's what they're going to experience their entire career. I think, like Apex said here, what we've been through this season is a lot for youngsters to handle. And where things are not going well, it also reflects on the youngsters, maybe
Yeah.
mostly reflects on the youngsters. Real Madrid, when they weren't, clicking, Vinicius wasn't all that good, and Rodrigo wasn't all that good. But when it started to click, they suddenly upped their game. Because when things are going well, you can feel it on everyone. And
Yeah.
the other thing is, I mean, what you're saying is 100% correct. You can criticize them as much as you can criticize anyone else. Our attacking game, especially our midfield game, us, Juventus playing in the middle of the pitch, is not good for anyone. We get drawn out to the flanks, so Miretti is trying to look for openings and trying to move, but when he does, he is too far out wide. It's never through the center. So no one is excelling in the center, not our central striker and not our central midfielders when it comes to attacking play. And so once again, Max here not playing to his player benefits. And you can obviously see when Napoli played, they have a system, they have a lineup. Every substitution is in accordance with the lineup. Zelensky comes in and he knows exactly what he has to do and where he has to be. They have, men for men substitutions for every position. We don't. Every substitution we make, we have to change something. We have to change the formation. That hurts, especially the youngsters. That's
Mhm.
the problem I'm seeing, but they're not free of criticism. You can criticize them as much as you want. They're football players, they get paid to do it, and when they're not doing a good job, you can criticize them.
Yeah. I actually will counter this on Vidad thinking and say that I think it's an exaggeration to say Fagioli is on another level. I think that's an exaggeration, to be honest. I think
Mm-hmm.
he has the potential to be on another level. But if you're telling me right now, at this moment in time, his current form is on another level, I'm not agreeing with you. I'm not agreeing with you. And that is what I'm talking about, everybody. Right now. Right now. I
I think
have a concern.
I think people are looking at over the course of the season. Fajoli
Yes.
has had better play on average, sure, but right now we need Fajoli to play better, and
Yeah.
Medetti's just simply beating him out of that spot.
Going
I
back
think
to the
this
statement
season has been
about
into the ground.
what's
Go on,
that,
go
What's
on.
Omer?
that?
I think they're, the players have been beaten down to the ground this
Oh yeah.
season, and they all need a reset. They all need the season to be over and reset all their
Hmm.
systems because everyone look like every goal takes everything out of them, takes all the air out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, again, over the course of the season, yeah, it's a different discussion, but we're talking about right now. This is what
Hmm.
concerns me because I need Fajoli to snap out of it and be what he was
What
for
he
the
was.
majority. That's what I'm
Hmm.
talking about. Now, as far as the offense and everything, how do you fix this? Because to the comment that was made there by Apex is needing our young guys to save us. That's a big problem. We should never rely on anybody, whether it's a veteran or a young kid. We should not be relying on individuals to save us or help us or whatnot. It's a team game. And for me, we are failing in the final third phase. And I don't care who the names are, they're all failing. You should not have Adrian Rabiot as your top goal scorer, period. If that doesn't, if that doesn't kind of sound the alarm bells off for what's going on at Juventus, I don't know what will.
He is playing well though, like
He is playing well, but a top goal scorer of this team that has Chiesa, Di Maria,
top goal scorer.
Vlahovic,
Yeah.
Kostic came in and
Okay.
whatnot, is supposed to be an assist machine.
Yeah.
Like Adrian Rabiot is our top goal scorer. What does this tell you? What does it tell me? It tells me that on average we're scoring junk goals.
Yeah. Luca put it in here, and I'd like to get your guys' opinion on it. I had to scroll up a little bit. The starting 11 was better without Chiesa, Angel, Pogba, and Dusan. Have we seen all four of them start yet? No, right? Because we haven't
Start?
seen
No,
that.
no.
We haven't. Have they all been on the park at the same time?
I think they were,
Maybe
I
once,
but we were defending, so
but the
not a
point
lot
is
of the
still
yeah.
time
made.
anyway.
It's scary to think that we yesterday we looked better when those guys weren't on the field,
Yeah.
right? Now it again on the law of averages over the course of a season, our team should be better with them on the field. We get it, but yesterday that's a problem. What and is that on Max? Is that on the team? Is that on tired legs? What did we don't know what the answer is.
There
We can
is a
point to a couple things.
major, major malfunction to this team when it comes to the attacking phase. Period.
Hmm.
Period. It can't be
Okay,
denied
so I
anymore.
have a question. So I have a
Fire away.
question in
And
that regard.
everybody that's got Storm the Barn questions, fire them away. We are going to talk about a couple, two new headlines as well before we get to Storm the Barn. But Omar, what's your question?
And so I think in Conte's second season, our top scorer was Vidal with I
Yeah.
don't know 10 or 11 goals, pretty similar to what Rabiot is having now. Our attackers at that time were Quagliarella, Vucinic, Matri, which turned out to be good players, not world class, not the ones to take you over the edge. So my question is, do we have actually another Matri, Quagliarella, Vucinic right now? And that's what we're seeing.
with a Keane, Dusan, and Milik.
Yeah, let's go with them.
Yeah, but none of them cost 70 million euros.
Leave the prices aside. I'm talking players levels.
In the
Level,
league,
level thing.
in the league, Vidal was tied with Vucinic. In all competitions, Vidal had the lead with 5 goals more, 15 total. In league, they
But
were
we
tied
did
with 10.
but we did control matches then. We have most of the ball and we were controlling the midfield, so they actually might have underperformed based on how much we dominated games. We don't dominate games now, and Allegri, he has problems with attacks, and every time he succeeded, he had attackers that weren't exactly system attackers. They were more, freewheeling and have enough talent to do it on their own. Look at most of our goals with Higuain, Tevez, Dybala, Ronaldo, whoever you want, Douglas Costa, Mandzukic. Those were top guys who knew how to create chances for themselves. And even Zlatan back in his Milan days, I'm not seeing anything of that now.
I see it kind of almost like back then for that group, because even if you go the year prior to Vidal being the top scorer or whatnot, there was a share between Marquisio, Matri, and Vucinic for the
Yeah.
goal scoring leaders. I saw it as being more rounded, and we had multiple scorers around that vicinity because you couldn't say that those guys were not performing at the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you were going to say Vidal's our leading scorer with 15 total, but you would not look at Vucinic and say he was not performing that season.
Yeah, and our players were getting not the attackers got a lot into the area. That was our system. Lichtsteiner, Pepe, Giaccherini, they were
Yeah,
always inside the area.
exactly. So nobody was looking at those players during that season saying, so for me, it was more of how we were playing, how we were attacking, who was getting involved the most and whatnot, and what everybody's role was. It's a little bit different when you look at it now. And then obviously it changed. Enter Carlos Tevez, and then all of a sudden you have a main guy, which changed everything. Whereas
Yeah.
before, I saw it as more of a supporting cast all working together as a unit. And then, of course, they still worked as a unit, but they had Tevez, who was incredible for Juventus. And then from there and so on, we tried to get main guys. Right now, I can't honestly say I feel the same way in terms of us balancing it out overall with everybody through our play. I don't feel that way anyways, despite Rabiot being the leader. I get the question there and the point about how is it not the same from Vidal, but for me it's got two completely different feelings based on how these teams operate and how they play.
Oh yeah, it's not a comparison that because Rabiot is that and Vidal did that 10 years ago. It's not a comparison. It's just general opinion of what was the difference and why is it not working now.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had the answer. I wish I could just figure
Yeah.
this thing out, snap my fingers, and be like, okay, now we're offensively firing, whatnot. But for me, it's not formation, it's not setup, it's not even personnel, because all of that has changed and been tweaked and tried
Mhm.
things and whatever. It's much, much more. It's a friggin' commitment. It's
Yep.
that ability to like want to commit numbers forward, get after goals, and for the large part of what I see, we do need some structure in attack because we are freewheeling up there. And I know how many people want to point their fingers at Ancelotti, Guardiola that talk about freedom in the final third, but it's different. It's different in a sense that on those teams, there are clear, defined roles for players. And the other players know exactly what that role is expected to do and what that player is going to do. At Juventus, you don't. I can't tell you from one game to the next if Di Maria is going to drop into our midfield or if he's going to stay and push the line. I don't know what
Mhm.
he's going to do. I don't know how he's going to play that role. I don't know what he's going to do. Chiesa, I don't know if he's going to hug the line. I don't know if all of a sudden he's going to move central like he did all of a sudden yesterday and whatnot. Like, I don't know. It's this guessing game from match to match to match of what we're going to do. I think we need some
Yeah.
structure.
And it's not a good guessing game. There are guessing games where the other teams scratch their head, like what are they going to do? It's our players who scratch their head and have no idea where to be, what to do, when to run, when to pass, when to move into open space. All those things are missing. We're missing the rebounds on the final ball because we always cross. We don't get to the crosses. Where's the second guy to take control of that rebound if that's our strategy?
Yeah.
We are
See,
just
I,
an
I just
untrained team in attack. That's
yeah,
what it looks like.
I just ran some quick numbers before we get to the storm the barn questions. Since that 2-0 loss or 3-0 loss to Monza, so starting from there, so 19 games from there, we've given up 2 goals 3 times. Other than that, it's been 0 or 1 goal against. So structurally, we have it set up at the back. That's a good run. In 19 games, you give up 2 goals only 3 times. So I think Max has done a good job at the back, but this is where the criticism of Max comes in is why can't you fix the other end of the park?
Yeah.
Got to put
And
the
if,
ball in
and
the
if
And
back
you
of
not
the net.
only
can't
that, but
get someone can.
factoring in what has happened, the record and the games, while you're only allowing such few goals. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, of those
By the way, I
the
saw a
games where we
stat
allowed two
today.
goals, we won 2 of them.
Yeah.
One of them.
A stat I saw today. Last season, after 31 games, we had exactly the amount of goals we have today, and we conceded 1 goal less. No, I think we conceded 1 goal less this season. But other than that, exactly the same.
Yeah.
That says a lot. It says a lot to me.
It does. Yep.
Progress?
What progress we had: Morata, Dybala, Kulusevski. We had a totally different set of attackers last season, up until January.
There's not enough there for me. Not enough
Mm-hmm.
there for me. Before we
No.
get to Storm the Barn, 2 news headlines were out there today. Sule is being looked at for the extension to 2026. All right. I absolutely have no problems with it. I do
Zero.
think more minutes and a loan might be the way to go. But of course, this Mercado is expected to be a quiet one. So who knows? Might just stick around
Mm-hmm.
and get all those minutes. Okay. And I'd be fine with it either way. I'm okay with it. The other one is that 171 are being investigated, whatnot. Apparently, there was the investigation carried through, and they're going to be served as obviously the racist chants towards Lukaku. The first thing I want to highlight is that all the Chihuahuas out there should shut the hell up because they know nothing, and everybody could tell that from the video that it was not the majority of a 6,000 seat sector that were making the chants. 171. Juventus has worked with the authorities to get this resolved. This is more than any other club out there has done. I will repeat, Lazio, multiple offenses and claims this season. One the same week that we were facing claims against Lukaku and everything. Yet, who is the team still pushing things forward and getting something done? Other teams' fans want to write letters explaining why it's okay for those chants. Juve gets business taken care of and is having these penalized and working with the authorities. So don't ever talk shit about my club and look at your own goddamn clubs, for Christ's sake. All right. Bravo to Juve. I hope they make an example out of everybody there, but I'm sick and tired of all the goddamn Chihuahuas out there and how cool and trendy it is becoming to hate on Juve for absolutely every single thing when, number one, you guys can't even get your fucking facts right. So there. Guys, anything to weigh in on that?
Make note of that. Nope. I have nothing to add.
No, I think the Juve are doing what they're supposed to do. I don't really care about what they posted on social media. I care what they actually do, and they're doing more than any other club does to fight racism. I think it's okay. I have no issue. Whatever you need to do to fight racism, do it. Doesn't matter if it's Juve or anyone else. Have it happen to everyone the same way. And Lazio fans can't be racist week in, week out, and no one even talks about it except the player that got racially abused. And mainly, I mean, FIGC, what can you make of these guys? What can you say that hasn't been said? I mean, it was this season that their main designator was arrested for having tons of drugs, dealing with drug deliveries. That's the main referee designator. What can I expect from these guys? Nothing. So say thank you to Juve who are doing something about it, instead of pointing fingers.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And everybody's on board in the chat here. Absolutely, absolutely. There's it's crazy how during this time right now, every little thing is highlighted and whatnot. As for you, Sadat, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Why not? Why the hell not? Tell it how it is and dish out the days. That's what we need officially. Officially. Now, we're gonna get to storm the barn, everybody. Storm the barn.
I love how
Trey,
Peter Ballesteri, who's here,
yeah.
is the founder of Storm the Barn. He's shocked. He's like, "You guys are still using that?" Yes, of course we're still using that, man. Hashtag STB. Get your questions.
Hey man, we gotta keep everybody. This is our channel, okay? Like all of us, AJC Army, very much involved. We said come up with a name, Storm the Barn. Hey, we loved it. Keep it around.
I think we
And
only had
we
the one
also
entry.
loved it because Luca was against it. So
Hated it.
all the better, all the better. Now
So Luca,
we have time
shut
for
down.
a few Storm the Barns. We're gonna tackle these. So I have an unpopular opinion, says Trey, about this current
So do
team
I.
skill and tactic, that they do not deserve a high value striker. They will not get service for many chances anyway. Would you agree? So
Deserve has anything to do with that?
Let's leave out deserve. I think Juve maybe could benefit from like some sort of a false nine because R9s just don't get the ball in the area anyway, and no one is in the center, so we might benefit from someone dropping back and always being there in the center and allowing others to come in from the sides, which is what we seem to want to do in games. So yeah, not so unpopular actually.
I've got to say this, and I mean, for those of you who haven't checked out the latest in our collaboration with Bianconeri's Zone, Justin and I had a good discussion about hot takes on popular pins and everything, and it got on the topic of contracts and everything like that. And for me, I see it as not we can't have a high value striker or anything like that one up, but I think in terms of the dealings and separating performance and play and whatnot, we are not a team that has the luxury to take a stab on a guy at 70 million if he's not a guarantee. When you start to look back at like Higuain, we spent 90 whatever million, but that guy was a goal scorer machine.
He
You
was
knew
plus
what
20 for years.
like you knew
Leading up
what you were
before that.
getting. It was a lock. Like this guy will score goals. He will contribute. With Vlahovic, I see us being the team that can take stabs on guys like around 40 million that you could still kind of move on and have to, and even then we're struggling. Kulishevsky, Bernardeschi, whatnot, but Bernardeschi became a different player and somebody that, I can appreciate for his Juventinita at least. You know what I mean? And the fact that he was a professional and didn't care getting thrown out as wing back, getting thrown into the midfield, getting thrown as a winger all of a sudden. I respected that about Bernardeschi. But these are the guys we can take stabs at financially based on where we are. We are not at that echelon with the oil money and stuff to take stabs on 70, 80 million and not hit. And I don't think it has anything to do with performance and stuff like that or whatnot. I think Juve's got to get back to being methodical in what they do money wise
Yeah.
and who they're bringing in. And the Dybalas of 40 million, the Bernardeschi's of 40 million, the Kulishevsky's, like that's kind of our range of who we take shots at. We brought Pjanic in, he was around 32. That's around our thing. When we start getting into the higher stuff, that's when we start filling in with a lot of patchwork. That's just how I'm seeing
I,
it. And I think it goes back quite a ways in terms of mercados when we start to get stung. And then obviously we reached for Ronaldo, but he did his job. No doubt.
100 goals.
He did
yeah.
his job.
Yes, he
Yeah, and
did.
I also believe we should aim for character more than ability, not get blinded by numbers or stats. And I mean, get me some more Pepes in the squad. Get me guys who have character and are not 20 years old, and we still need to give them 5 years because youngsters don't have 5 years to grow now. If you buy them, 2 3 seasons, they're out if it doesn't work out. Get me some. I don't want to say old, but some more experienced players from the league who will be easier to get into the system and doesn't have to get used to the language and everything. And those are the type of profiles I think we should look at now, because obviously spending big doesn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is something I posted on the chat yesterday and in the group. This summer, like you said, Al, it's going to be quiet. Keep Dusan, keep Sandro. I know it's not a popular opinion. You bring back your loanees and you play the young kids. I think that's what we're going to have to be doing. We're not going to, like you said, we're not going to be able to go out and spend $40 million on 3 or 4 players.
Yeah.
This summer, we may only be able to afford one, maybe like Fletes, even though he's not, he might be going to Rome. But you know what? A player like that, we're only going to be able to afford one or maybe two. So
Yeah.
buckle up, kids. And well, Max is a separate story, but I think Dusan needs to stay because then who else do we have? Because we're not going to be able to go out and spend big money on a striker.
The
So
reason I'm on the fence with it is because I think if we saw a money deal that was really good for us, we might have to take it.
yeah, that's what Luca's saying here too. Like,
I do agree with you that I think we're pulling the plug too quickly, based on what I see overall from an offense and this team. But financially, it might be what makes sense for the team.
The
And
thing
that
is
is,
it
I
sucks.
think
Max? Is it Max or Dusan? Is that what it's coming down to in the summer? I see people say that.
I
I
I don't know. Like I don't think nobody is gonna know.
Oh
Like
yeah, we need a sporting director.
journalists aren't gonna know what the stipulations are that are gonna make Vlahovic want to stay or whatnot. If a big team comes knock or what, nobody's gonna know that. But obviously those involved. But for me, like I said, I think we're pulling the plug too early from what I've seen offensively as a whole and all our players considered. I think it's harsh to put it all down on Duchamp, to be honest. But I also admit and agree with everyone that says it's a different player from when he first came to us that second half of the season to now, because he does look night and day different in terms of individual measurements on play. So it's a tough call. Juve's going to be in a very, very tough predicament come summer. And again, everybody, there's a few cases and things going on that we kind of got to wait.
If you
Kind of
haven't
got to wait
heard.
and see. Just to remind everybody, unfortunately. Can we expect big results with the 3-5-2? It is too stale, in my opinion. You count on your left and right wing backs, and looking at the current roster, it seems like a gamble at the right. I'm going to stand by what I was saying earlier in the sense that for me, formation is not what is hindering Juventus. And
Yeah, and if you look across Europe, most teams play with at least three defenders, 3-5-2, 3-4-3, whatever. But three defenders is what everyone is going with right now. So, like you said, I don't think the formation is the problem you will have right now.
yeah, Anth, you agree?
The 3-5-2 was working. It was our best lineup up until we just lost 3 Serie A games in a row. But it was our best lineup, our best formation up until the international break, right? The 4-3-3 was a disaster before the World Cup. And then we got a regular lineup, a regular formation, 3-5-2. We were looking good. But no, there's moving like next season, different story. This
Yeah.
season, 3-5-2 has been our best formation.
And we got to
It
remember we
has.
are going to have a new sporting director, or probably a new management. We have no idea how their transfer strategy is going to look. It's not going to be the same as it was. So that's something to look up to. Maybe they have a completely different idea in their mind that we're not even thinking about.
we don't have the fullbacks, in my opinion, to get out of using wing backs in a 3-5-2. That's just me. I've been sticking to that one all year pretty much, and I still believe it. Luca, Max put out an 11 no one expected to hold up, yet they did rather well as opposed to our main starters who came as subs. Does it worry you that he fails to get the best out of our best players? Well, yeah, of course it does. I mean, we have to have Dusan firing. We have to have Di Maria being world class. We have to have Chiesa as being our key guys. Like I said, this is the big piece of the puzzle. I've been saying this for weeks now. Max has to get our key guys being key guys.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with these guys are coming back from injury, that's starting to lose its shine. That excuse is really starting to lose its shine, right? Chiesa, okay, he's only good for 70 minutes, or like Di Maria, Pogba really is the only one you can say, or anybody else who picks up a knock like Bremer. But Pogba is really the only one you can say, okay, how many minutes does he have? Everybody else should be full go.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah,
60 minutes, 65 minutes.
but to be honest, if this is our style of play, not controlling the ball, not going forward only on counter attacks, I prefer Rabiot in there to Pogba. I don't want Pogba in a defensive setup. I want him when
Fair
Juve
enough.
are playing in the other team's half.
That's fair.
Yeah. I just
Then you sacrifice for Jolie.
Yeah, still does more defending.
it's not so simple. It's not so easy.
No, it's never is with Juve.
It's difficult, but it's infuriating. It's infuriating that like, and I mean, I've got this thing for Max Allegri where I give him a tremendous amount of credit for this season and everything that's gone on, because I said at that point, Monza defeat earlier, rock bottom, whatever, like, and then, we get points. There was no turnaround in sight for me. I couldn't see it. I could not see it. I give him a lot of credit. However, this guy being brought back, okay, and when you go over statistically, seemingly no progress, staying the same as we were last season, okay? When we're talking about a coach of his experience, of his level, having an offense that is clearly a problem, having key players that are obviously not your key players, that is a problem, and it can't be ignored. Like, it can't be. And we can't be bringing in player after player after player after player and watching them fail with us. You can't do that.
Okay, but hang on a second. Before we start blowing everything up, we have 47 goals for. Napoli has 67. They're way out in front. Lazio has 49. Roma has 42. Both Milan teams have 51. Atalanta has 48. Like, we're making it sound like we only have 25 goals. Like, we're not way behind.
No, but it has no relevance where you are overall with the other teams. It's the fact that in 1-goal matches, you're usually dropping points.
Stink. Yeah. Okay.
It's that record, and I don't have it in front of me or whatnot, but it's our record when conceding. That's terrible. We simply don't score enough. Not only
we'll
that,
get that for Wednesday.
When we play against the good teams, we hardly create enough to score enough to get in there. So there is a problem there. There is a problem there. And I mean, let's just ask you this, taking into consideration the fact that, okay, we're close to all these other teams in the standings there. Are you essentially saying that we have no problems offensively?
No, we do.
Exactly.
I'm just saying in the league, because you got to win your league first, right? Whatever in Europe. But in the league, it's not like we're falling behind the pack. We're in the pack.
Yeah, but
do with that what you will.
But that's looking at too much on statistics and not enough on the game itself.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll make it. When's the next game? Wednesday?
So Wednesday, and obviously, that's a big one. We got to get in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, it's great that, we're in the pack as far as the goals go. But we just finished talking about 9 games straight without being able to bag 2 in a game. We
Fair
are
enough.
now 3 losses consecutively in Serie A for the first time since when? 2011? Something like that.
Oh, I don't even
And
know.
how many of our goals came from set pieces in those 9 games?
We'll
Yeah,
find that
we've
out for
got
Wednesday.
we've got a 70 million striker that hasn't scored a goal in open play for like I don't even know how long now the minutes are. It's insane.
It's a lot.
Like we've got to be better. We have to be better. I think there's clear and obvious problems there. But again, we got to forget about this one, everybody. Robbery and whatnot. No, like I said, leave that for the Chihuahuas. Okay, leave that for them. We got to look at ourselves. We have to be better. Wednesday, we have to be better. We have to get the job done. Lukaku's going to be playing, and rightfully so, in my opinion, because I think that was way too harsh. So he'll be in there. Juve's got to get the job done. Expect Bremer back in the fold. Okay. As far as what else Max is going to do, I have no idea. I will say this. Arbitro Nick brought up Doveri as a referee. Sketchy.
I
Known.
think he refereed our first match against Inter this season, which we've won. But still, I think I hate all the referees in Italy. Simple
Yeah.
as that.
Yeah, there's one I'd probably call on for this game, and I think it'd be good. But again, who cares about them? We got to take control. We got to take matters into our own hands. Early calls, everybody, and in the live chat, you guys as well. Are we getting into the final of Coppa Italia? Yes or no? Omar,
Yes.
come on. The sigh. That's not a good sigh.
You don't leave me a lot of choices. Yes, we are.
Yes. And
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to think about how many red cards there's going to be because listen, these
it's going to be
past 2
heated.
derbies have been awesome in
It's going
terms
to
of
be heated.
like it feeling like a derby. Yeah. Red cards is going to be the key. So who's out? So Quadrado's out. Handanovic is out. Well, that's not really a
Yeah.
loss.
Quad is going to be a tough one for Juve to fill. Because I don't want to go to a 4-3-3. And I think we got to stay in a 3-5-1-1, if you ask me, especially mirroring Inter, because that's how you give them problems. Teams that mirror them actually pose problems to them. That's going to be the tough one, is Quad.
Mm-hmm.
Barbieri?
Considering no, considering what
Absolutely
we've
not.
seen, considering what we've seen this season, I would go with Gatti, Bremer, Rugani, and Danilo on the right. Those are guys who are performing at least.
I won't do that.
4 at the back.
No
You're
chance.
saying?
And the
No,
reason
no,
why?
Kostic,
The
Kostic
reason
playing.
why is because Rugani can't play to a side. And if Bremer's in the back, he has to be in the heart of the back 3 because he's not himself playing out to one of those sides. That's a
Not for
problem with
Juve,
those 3.
not for Juve, but for Torino, he did play on the left-hand side of a three-man back. I mean, he knows how to play that role. I have no issues with Rugani being out there on the left, to be
I
honest.
don't
I
like it,
prefer him to
man. I don't
Sandro.
like it. Anytime for Juventus, I will not look at the other teams. For Juventus, when Bremer is to the side, it's not ideal. It's not ideal.
We all know it's going to be the Shilio. I mean, the discussion is void. Just us, playing FIFA, but it's going to be the Shilio.
It is. Of
On the
course, it's going
right.
to be De Chilio.
Yeah,
Barbieri, though?
maybe a
Would you
late.
do it?
Too much.
No. Omar said
No,
absolutely not. Ant, would you do it? We've only seen him for a short period of time. I can't do
Is
it.
he a right back or a right wing back?
It's going to be De
no idea.
Chilio. Everybody get ready for Lord De Chilio.
Yeah,
Watch
it's
him
gonna be
have
good.
a
What are we
game.
talking?
Watch him have a
Our
game. We
Lord and
need him to have a
Savior.
game. That's going to be a big one, everybody. I'm curious to see what Max does with the lineup. We've talked about Miretti and Fagioli interchanging throughout the season, okay? In terms of form, what's Max going to do there in the middle of the park? Up top, Milik did a lot of good work against Napoli. I was actually really happy with his performance. I don't know what Max is going to do. Max is starting now. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but with game by game by game, he's starting to keep more and more of his cards close to his chest in terms of lineups, and we're getting way more surprises than we have throughout this season. Who knows what's going to happen? All I know is that we better fucking win. We got to win that one. No doubt. Make it into that Coppa Italia final, win that final, and then of course Europa League and Sevilla. If we're talking about Sevilla, for me, we got to start scoring goals if we want to get by Sevilla. I don't think these 1-0s are going to do with that team. That's just me. So, a lot of work to be done. But everybody here,
not a lot of time to do it.
Not a lot of time to do it and a lot of work to be done. Sums it up. But one day at a time, okay? One step at a time and one game at a time. Next up, Wednesday, you guys know the drill. I'll bring you news updates leading up to that. We're going to have a match day live on Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. No watch along because it's midweek. Got a job to do. Hey, but back again for the weekend, all right? Everybody, enjoy your week. There was no robbery. We have to worry about ourselves. Juve is better than that, okay? Don't tell yourself any differently. We have to take care of business ourselves. Wednesday, come Inter. Hopefully we can kick the snakes out and go on to the final. We'll talk to you all then. As always, thank you for all the support, live chat. You guys have been amazing. And hopefully the next one is talking about a victory. All right. Ciao tutti. Fino alla fine. Forza Juve.
Yeah.